Keebler. We can all use something to make us happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. There are many ways in which we can accomplish this. Today, Stephen Keebler, giving his 10th speech from his comic, inspire your audience. I love hearing those words when as people are completing it. Inspire your audience. Steve will talk about some ways we can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. The title of his speech is simply, Things to Make You Happier, Healthier, and More Fulfilled. The length of his speech is 8 to 10 minutes, John. Please help me welcome Stephen to the lectern.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be here today giving my 10th speech. So wonderful. Most of us, or probably all of us, can use a little more happiness, can be a little healthier, and a little more fulfilled in life. Probably some more than others, but all of us could use a little more of that, I'm sure. Today, just for a few moments, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we can do to be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled, and hopefully inspire you to take some of these steps. We will talk about exercise. We will talk about getting outside, which is something Rosemary touched on last week. And we will talk about volunteering your time and being generous with your resources. Finally, we will finish up with a couple of quick ones, moving closer to work, and one that's very standard is getting plenty of sleep. So let's first talk about exercise. We have some hardcore exercisers in here. It's good to see Danielle. She does the Spartan races, which is crawling through mud and jumping and climbing ropes, and some others may do that, but I've seen her stuff on Facebook. And Janet runs the marathons. So we've got some hardcore exercises in here, exercisers. The rest of us, probably more standard stuff like going to the gym. But experts say that exercising just 7 minutes a day can have tremendous benefits. Obvious benefits are you could lose weight, you can feel better and have more energy, you can also better handle stress with exercise. So lots of reasons to get out there and exercise. Plenty of exercise venues, trails, and parks here in Wilmington. We also have what is now our exclusively O2 fitness centers because O2 Fitness bought out Globe's Gym. Or you can have a number of private, smaller entities, personal trainers, things like that. Or you can have your own exercise regimen. A lot of people do that. So I encourage you to get out there and exercise. Second, get outside. And again, Rosemary had a great speech on getting outdoors last week, and people have followed that up this week. More green time instead of screen time. I'm a huge proponent of getting outside. Experts say, and self-help books say, getting outside can help with your happiness, certainly with health, and that kind of goes together, exercising outside. And of course, it'll make you feel more fulfilled. We have a number of parks, as I said, trails. We certainly have the beach. And things I like to do are just work outside in the yard and work in the garden. An interesting study I saw, this is kind of an interesting tidbit, the ideal temperature to do things outside is 57 degrees. That seems a little cool for us, and it probably is, but if you're working outside diligently or running or walking fast and the wind's not blowing, that's probably a pretty good temperature. Now keep in mind that study brings people, the study surveyed people from all across the country. So up in Minnesota and Maine, 57 degrees is probably, feels pretty good. But I encourage you to get outside, whether it be just walking in the neighborhood, exercising, working. We go to Poplar Grove Plantation in Scotts Hill. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. Wonderful trails there. People walk, people run, people train, people walk their dogs. So lots of good opportunities to get outside in our area. Third, let's talk about volunteering. Volunteering certainly can make you feel more fulfilled, make you happier, and certainly if you're happier and more fulfilled, you're probably going to be healthier. No shortage of volunteer opportunities in every community around the country. You can volunteer to be a mentor or a tutor to someone. You can volunteer to help people, the elderly, take them to doctor's appointments or run errands. You can help people to learn to read. The Cape Fear Literary Society is always looking for people. So no shortage of volunteer opportunities. And when you help someone, that's almost a priceless feeling to know that you've helped them, through tough times or helped them accomplish a goal. And certainly that's going to make you feel happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. Being generous with your resources, with your money. I gave a speech on this, or part of a speech a few months ago, can certainly make you feel good. And there are any number of permanent causes you can give to, and a number of transitory causes, as we've seen this year with all the storms, with the hurricanes in Florida and Puerto Rico, of course, and Texas. So there are any number of good causes that you can give to. An interesting story, I'm sure most of you have heard about this, but I'm going to bring it up in case some haven't. This is an exception and not the rule, but if being generous, this individual was being generous, and it's going to change his life dramatically. Up in Philadelphia, a couple of weeks ago, a young lady ran out of gasoline in a kind of a bad part of town, and a young man, homeless, used his last $20 to buy her some gasoline. So she got home safely. She did not forget. She came back the next few days and brought him some clothes and some money. And she also started a GoFundMe account for this individual who had come across some rough times. He was a veteran, a homeless veteran. And that story got out, and now the total, I looked yesterday, was up to around $350,000. So again, that's kind of an exception, not the rule, but being generous is going to change that young man's life. He's certainly going to probably get a home and certainly have a fresh start. So that's a wonderful story that can lead to great things if you're generous. Let's go over a couple real quick to wrap it up here. Something that can make you feel happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. And this one's it could be relevant or it could not be relevant to the Wilmington area. But it's moving closer to your place of work, so you shorten your commute. Now, this is probably more for people in the bigger cities where you hear about commute times of an hour, 2 hours. But also it could be relevant here in Wilmington because you have the opportunity to move closer to work. So those people, where I'm going with this, those people up in those big cities probably don't have the opportunity to move closer to work because they can't afford to pay $10,000 or $15,000 rent for an apartment or for their mortgage per month. So here in Wilmington, again, the commute times aren't that bad. So being myself, I live in Hampstead and I work over by the airport, which is 19 miles, but it's a quick commute, especially since the bypass opened years ago. So if I had it to do over again, it's not a big deal, but I would probably at least consider moving a little closer to work so it wouldn't be that long. Certainly last night when I was going home, and I don't know how many heard about this, but there was a bad accident on Highway 17 in Hampstead. And it was at 11 o'clock in the morning, so I was going home a little past 7, and the traffic was still backed up. So I thought it was kind of ironic that I was talking about this, and that's one of the few times that traffic has been backed up. It was obviously a bad accident. But moving closer to your work, bottom line, it's probably for something you could consider if you move to a bigger area. Finally, getting adequate sleep. This kind of goes without saying. You get adequate sleep, you're going to feel more, you're going to be happier, certainly be healthier and feel more fulfilled. If you don't get adequate sleep, you come in the next day, you're Mr. or Mrs. Grumpy Bear, that turns people off. But and especially if you have a long-term problem, I'm not getting sleep, that's going to cause health problems. So it goes without saying, get adequate sleep, and that's going to make you happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. Whether it be getting outside, whether it be getting some exercise, whether it be volunteering your time or being generous with your resources or moving closer to work, I hope I've given you some ideas and inspired you to be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled in your life this morning. Thank you.